Let me tell you an old story. Back when my dad was still alive. When I was 4, 5 years old. We heard something that didn't sound like any animal we'd ever heard. And saw something that, to this day, I still don't know or truly believe what I saw. We went to a wilderness park for the day. It was one of our favorite things to do. It was pretty big considering where it was. Maybe the size of Central Park, but definitely not as filled with buildings and other stuff. Definitely less city around it. He and I loved hiking and seeing the little animals that lived around us. It was a fun bonding moment. We lost all track of time, and before we knew it, it was dark. And wouldn't you know it, we were in the middle of a park's hiking trail in the dark. Luckily, Dad knew where we were, so he led us to the exit. I was a kid, so naturally I was scared. But Dad said he'd keep me safe from all the beasties in the area. He did play a small prank on me here and there. He just wanted to scare me to make sure he could get me to laugh in the end. What a jerk. As we walked, the moonlight over us, Dad suddenly noticed how quiet it got. Remember, we may not have been close to a city or in the middle of the jungle, but the park was pretty rowdy with wildlife. Dad couldn't hear any of it. Not the bugs, not the stream, not a single breeze rustling the trees. Nothing. It was as if the entire park just went still. He became even more unnerved when the clouds rolled over the moon, putting us in complete darkness. It was as if something had swallowed us whole. We felt entirely cut off. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was that I was scared. Something scary was happening, and seeing my dad scared wasn't helping. And then we heard it. I didn't mean to scream, but Dad covered my mouth and held me close. He looked around, trying to see anything that could have made that sound. But not only could he not see a thing, the sound came from everywhere. It didn't sound like anything either of us had ever heard before. I remember that I had a little toy flashlight my mom gave me. I let him use it. The light wasn't the best, but it was something. Dad looked around for what made that sound, but couldn't see anything. And once again, the park went quiet. Our ears ringing with whatever could have made that sound. A roar, a scream, something else. We didn't have a clue. None of my Disney movie training prepared me for this kind of sound. The only thing scarier than hearing a random sound in the woods is hearing a random sound that you can't identify. And the silence. Even as a 5-year-old, I knew silence was terrifying, and you'd never want to hear it in the middle of nowhere. My dad picked me up on his back and began walking really fast. I held the flashlight so he could keep a firm hold on me. I curled into his back and didn't make a sound. As a kid, I didn't know what this icy tingling on my back was. But now that I'm older, I'm sure of it. Something was watching us, and it was really close. As if any second, it could just reach out and touch us. And I think it knew that we knew it was close. And it was toying with us. I don't know how long we were walking for. It felt like forever. But it was getting darker, colder, and even quieter, if any of that were possible. Dad's footsteps were the loudest thing in the park, It made my heart pound like crazy, like we were telling whatever made that sound where we were. I tried to keep the flashlight on the trail, shining it on the signs we passed. But there were sudden twig snaps, breaking in the bushes. Fast footsteps that either never got closer or just dashed past us. I was always trying to see if I could catch what made those sounds, but there was nothing. And once they passed, the park was quiet again. Then, it was closer, but we still didn't see anything. Dad ran faster. We could see the lights from the entrance. Looks like someone was still home in the cabin. We were almost there. Then something darted across the path, knocking Dad and I over. The park came alive again with animal sounds, like they were screaming at us to get up and run. Dad scrambled to grab me. He found my flashlight, but it must have broken because it wasn't turning on. But we could still see the entrance. That's all we needed. Dad picked me up and was about to run when... silence. We froze. We barely breathed. Slowly, Dad turned. I felt him go cold. And when I turned, following his eyes, I just went numb. There was a shape, somehow made out in the pitch black, and then a smile. Then it moved. Dad took my flashlight and threw it. The thing screamed out. Dad had hit it. He held me tight and ran as fast as he could. He didn't care about the trail. He was following the lights. Faster and faster, my dad ran. He jumped over every root, every fallen log, everything. He tore through the wilderness just to make it to those lights. And we could hear it. The thing was behind us, and it was getting closer. It was tearing through everything to catch up to us. And the sound, it just kept making that sound, and it was breathing. The breathing, I could feel it on the back of my neck. It was getting closer. It was almost there. I could feel something was touching me. We made it out. Dad jumped over one of the barriers, and we were in the parking lot. The thing that was following us stopped at the barrier. It didn't follow after us. We didn't question it. We didn't even care. We just found the car. And we got in. We practically broke the windows, shutting the doors. We tore out of that parking lot. Dad drove like he'd never driven before, nearly taking out other cars. He didn't slow down, not for a second. He wanted to get as far away from that park as possible. Hell, he said we were moving. I was crying quietly in the seat, hiding under his coat like a protective blanket. When we got home, Dad didn't let me go, and he let me spend the night in his room with him and Mom. Mom was shocked by us suddenly bursting in. We told her we would explain tomorrow. Well, Dad did. I never breathed a word of what happened to anyone. I couldn't. I was still terrified. Because when we got out of the park, as Dad was peeling out of the lot, I took one more look to make sure it really wasn't chasing us. I wet myself seeing that smile at the barrier. It's been over 20 years since that incident. My dad had passed away when I was 5, and I'm living with my husband and 2 children now. I never went back to that park after that, but I still go hiking with my new family. I'm glad they enjoy it like I do. But I do make sure we go extremely early. No late night hikes for me ever again. What a long day. That hike was pretty brutal. Tomorrow is going to be a lazy day. Oh, damn. It's gotten dark pretty fast. Guess that's a sign to go to bed. It's really cold. Breathing style, window shut technique. Alright, lights off. Now to doom scroll until I fall asleep. Huh? The hell? Is that a flashlight? Where'd this come from? Looks like a toy. Maybe one of the kids left it in here. Hold on. This looks like the one I lost as a kid. But that can't be. Where?